Good afternoon and welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of September the 7th, 4 o'clock. The first item on the agenda is to discuss the salary and wage survey, and I've asked Michelle Noren, who's been helping us work on this, to say a few words, please.
Sure. So after your meeting last week, you had asked for a third proposal, which I was able to get for you, and I emailed to you, so hopefully you have a copy of it. It came in between the other two proposals, so we have a range of costs. It's very similar to the other proposals as far as how the company would go about the process. So I wanted you to have that. I also wanted to let you know that I didn't get a chance to email you this yet because it just came in. You also wanted a reference for the company that we were looking at selecting. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to read it to you and then I can email it to you after. This is from Kurt Miller. He says, "Exceptional is the best word to use. Robin and her team are very professional, but more importantly, they take the time to get to know their clients' needs. They truly become a member of the team that can be counted on. When I was first selectman of Seymour, we had HRC come in to do an HR audit to help us understand our needs and to help us with planning a course forward. Seymour now has a fully functioning HR department that was built step by step from that planning. Now that I've moved to Ansonia, I'm in the early stages of planning with Robin to do the same thing here." He works for the city of Ansonia now. "I think HRC would be an excellent choice for the salary and job description review you're looking to do. I would highly recommend them for this project or any other HR needs you have. Please let me know if you or any of the board members have questions. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Kurt Miller, Chief Fiscal Officer for the city of Ansonia."
Okay, and you previously sent us a spreadsheet with the firms.
Yes.
And the estimated costs; those need to be refined, of course, as we get into it. But I think all selectmen should have that document. So I think that the Human Resource Consulting Group seems to have a good record. They have a long track record, a sizable enough firm, and they may be in fact able to handle both the wage and salary survey as well as some other other HR functions that we're seeking to improve upon. Any questions before we consider voting here?
I have no questions.
I still have the same questions I had at the last meeting. First of all, thank you, Michelle, for reaching out to somebody else. It's interesting that there was quite a divergence of cost between the two options presented last time, so thank you. I really feel that there should be a committee that looks into the process. I really feel, and I said that last time, I also feel that we've been hanging around over this for really months and months and months, and then all of a sudden, Michelle is good enough to jump in, and now we're going to vote. I'm just not comfortable that we've done all our due diligence. I know we have job descriptions already. I don't know what's wrong with the ones we have. A committee could evaluate what we have versus what we need. I also feel that a committee would take into account all the needs of the employees. And I also have the questions I raised last time regarding the budget. I know the town approved $20,000 for each our firm, and there was about $6,000, I think you said, Tim, in carryover. And there was a series of emails that went around that said $6,000 wasn't going to be enough. And I don't see the breakout on this job description and salary review for each of those functions. And I think a committee could ascertain what we have, what we need, and then we could feel comfortable going forward.
There are two components to this. The wage and salary survey, I think there's a number of carryover amounts totaling about $6,000. So we would be needing to go back to the Board of Finance to augment that once we, if we select human resource consulting, we would get a more precise fee, and then using that information, we talk with the Board of Finance. Personally, I think with respect to committees, we have, I think, enough here. We have 3 firms. We have an outstanding reference. So I think this has been urged for quite some time. Here we are able to proceed. So I think this firm is capable and should be given given a tentative okay pending, some additional work on the fee structure.
How about the questions from our finance department that were raised with respect to this? Have those been thrown in the mix? Have we resolved those at your level?
I don't know yet.
I'm sorry?
I can't understand what you're saying.
The questions that were raised by our finance department that were emailed to us, have those questions been evaluated, responded to?
No, that came in today.
Well,
Right? Are you talking about the email that was generated
there
today?
were a couple of emails over the last few days. I think our finance department has some concerns about the procedures here. And I wouldn't feel comfortable going forward until those questions are at least discussed and evaluated.
Well, the finance department has seemingly wanted to outsource all this information. They don't want to be involved particularly, they said. So I think we have an opportunity to actually move this forward and get to the next step. So I'm sure we can have some ongoing discussions as this moves along, but everyone that I've been talking to is urging that this be done, get going on it. Mm-hmm. And forming a committee, it's going to be another month or so. This firm and others have said they would like to get this completed during the fourth quarter, and we're basically at that point. So.
Okay, well, I've had the opportunity to tell you what I think, and
Well, we've been dealing with this for months.
You're welcome.
We've been dealing with this for months.
Yep. Right.
So I make a motion, we hire this company that was Kim recommended and start the process.
The motion being Human Resource
Human Resources.
Consulting Group. I'll second that. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
No.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Scale House contractor selection. Phil, if you would come up and update us, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Did you all get a copy of the email? Yes. Okay, good. So we received 3 proposals for the construction of the Scale House by 2 p.m. on April 26th. All 3 were contacted and considered for construction. Lloyd Construction, who was the apparent low bidder, just so you know, the bids range from $99,000 to about $110,000. The actual bids once we were through the process. They told me right up front that they would not be able to perform the work, unfortunately, because they had other work. So I couldn't consider them. He's a really nice guy, and we should consider them for future bidding for the town. He was really helpful. all of that. Jay Stokes submitted a revised bid for the work. I asked him for additional references. He gave me 2 references, and I knew that he done a job here in town. Subsequent to the reference check, he had issues around job completion, code performance checks, and a lot of additional change orders on the work that he did. So the job didn't come in on time and or under budget. I also asked him for a sheet showing how the way he submitted his bid was by division, and it really didn't talk about what he was going to use, the materials or quality materials he was going to use for the job. So at that point,
I did meet
What
it.
do you mean by division? I'm sorry.
there are 16, actually 18 divisions now in the CSI format.
All participants have been muted.
He submitted his bid by uncovering this division, this division, this division, this division, not explaining the materials he was going to employ or anything like that. So I wanted some backup information to have that. He did not provide that to me. And then along with the other issues on another job that he did here in town, with code compliance, with project completion, I chose not to consider him. I didn't think it was the best, met the intent of the specification.
What was that project?
What's that? Excuse me?
What project was that?
What project was it? It was the William Pitt building at the end of Halls Road.
Say that again. I'm
The
sorry.
William Pitt building, that's the old Essex Bank building, where I guess Essex Bank is still there on one side.
Okay, thank you.
Waste Construction submitted a proposal for this work. They supplied additional information right away. They met with us. They verified that they could work within the window provided to get the folks in. He's performed work for us in the past. As a matter of fact, he did the restroom facility. So I am making a recommendation that we employ them, and with a note that all of the vendors and everybody will be inside the cap that was placed at the town meeting for construction of the job. So my recommendation is with Weiss, and as soon as you guys say okay, I'm going to give him a call and get them wheels up and get that thing built for you.
When does he think he can start?
He said 7 to 10 days to get material delivery. He called before he got back to us.
And how long does he?
I gave him 60 days to do the job. 60 days total. He thinks he can beat that. The reason I gave him 60 days really was because I'm using 2 other sub-trades, and they're not sort of in his bailiwick.
Okay.
That gives us time to manage the job. But he's got the difficult ones taken care of. The floor guy, the epoxy floor guy, and all those are already hard.
So it's guaranteed to be here before it starts getting cold.
That's the plan.
Is there any liquidated damages?
I do not have any liquidated damages on this job. I didn't think it was necessary, and the answer is no. But I have every confidence in the world that he will be. His history with us down the street was pretty good.
And will you be overseeing the work?
Yes, I will.
So if we need you, we're going to know where you're at. basically.
Right, yeah, and I'm going to sort of camp out there a little bit just to make sure it gets up because it needs to be done that way. And that's all I have.
Very well. Okay, we have a recommendation that we engage Weiss Construction, which is the firm that did the Haynes Park Boathouse, bathroom facility, to perform this work at the transfer station. I would entertain a motion if someone is inclined.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Okay, it's moved and seconded to hire Weiss Construction. All in favor? Aye. Very well,
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, the next item will require the board to go into executive session. So, Elizabeth, you just got here, so now you can get up and leave. Seriously, we'll stop the camera and we'll re-engage the telephone after the executive session. It'll be the Selectmen, Amanda Blair and Evan Griswold, on behalf of the Oline Open Space Committee, to talk about potential real estate acquisition. So let's have a moment. And you gotta do this, I guess.
No. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor? Joe?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now that we've come out of executive session, we have been discussing a purchase and sale agreement, and we're ready to make a motion about the purchase. And the motion would be to authorize the first selectman to execute the contract for sale of the combined lots 41-1 and 41-4 off of Whippoorwill Road from Stephen P. Ames, subject to such minor changes as approved by town attorney. So may we have
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Kerr? Okay. Moved and seconded. Okay, so we had some good information from the open space representatives. Do you want to encapsulate a brief summary of what's going on here? And then we'll just preface this with the fact that this proposal will need to go through several approvals, the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, Planning, and ultimately a town meeting. So you want to maybe just...
Why don't you start? Ladies first.
Maybe switch them.
Thank you. We are asking the town Board of Selectmen to sign a contract of sale for approximately 35 acres, which is adjacent to the Ames open space. The access is off of a roadway from Whippoorwill. And this addition of this parcel to our Ames open space will provide ample parking in a safe manner, access to our beaver and bird wildlife observation area, and also provide access to the two major caves on the Ames open space. And we've been negotiating with the Ames family for a number of years. We've purchased a couple of 100 acres from them, and this completes what we feel or is our capstone to the Ames open space property. And we hope that the town of Old Lyme and the residents support us in this acquisition.
Okay, and I think that addition of the 35 acres, which includes some upland, it includes the roadway, as Amanda mentioned, for access to the additional property that we have owned for several years. This access, combined with the access off of Evergreen Trail, will provide ample access to the property for the enjoyment of hiking and passive recreation. And so we're looking forward to having an approval.
Very good.
So I know that Samantha Blair and Adam Griswold from the Open Space Commission.
Any other points before we vote? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, unanimous. Very good. Well, we'll be following the progress.
Thank you
Great,
very much.
thank you so much for your support.
Good enough. All right, the next item is to consider the minutes of the 16th of August for approval.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Discussion?
I don't have it.
All right. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And the next set of minutes is a special meeting of the 31st of August, 2021.
I have two additions, please. Under point number 3, approval of the salary and wage survey contract. I would like to add under the third paragraph, Selectmen Noble suggested that a proposal for an additional firm on the CCM list be obtained. As a correction, I just suggested that we receive an additional proposal. I didn't mention CCM. Certainly support that, if that's not what I said. So that those last words can be removed. Selectmen will also added a committee to be considered for this work, and Selectmen will question the budget allocated for this work.
Okay. So do we want to have a motion to approve the minutes as amended just now?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good. Let's see. I did get a last-minute request for an appointment to a committee, but we can add that as add that to the agenda. This would be to the Lime Senior Center Building Committee. One of the members resigned, and the chairman has requested a new person be added. So if we might, I would like to add to put on a B.J. Burnbloom to be a member of the Lime Senior Center Building Committee. There is no specific term for the position, but it would be to fill a vacancy that was created on that committee. So if you're willing, we could add that as an item under appointments.
Second.
Okay. All right, well, I'll make a motion to put on B.J. Burnbloom as the new member to the Lime Senior Center Building Committee, no specific term. Okay. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion on that?
I'm assuming that Mr. Burnbloom filled out the application to be a member of the committee, and I think you already said the director of the project was who recommended him.
Yeah, I said that the chairman. Yeah, we have the form, and so I think we all know him as well. All right, all in favor of Mr. Burnbloom?
Aye.
Okay. There is also an item on here, the member at large. I don't believe, I know there's a couple of names being circulated that haven't been finalized, so if it's okay with the selectmen, we could wait until our next meeting to fill this position. I think the committee is will try to get a meeting going here very shortly, because I think we do have a number of names that have already expressed a willingness to go, and we can, I would say, this month we'll get, probably within the next 10 days, we'll get a meeting going, and then we can take this up another time.
Okay, I have a question on that. At our last meeting, I really pushed that I was member at large, and the both of you allowed me to ask the person I had in mind when I submitted that name. Are you now saying then you reached out to other people And you haven't shared that with me.
I think we could try to get a couple of names if you'd like to consider. But as I say, I know that there's one person who hasn't been reached, so I think if it wouldn't be troublesome, we could defer on this till our next meeting and consider who we have and make a vote.
I would like to get this person appointed. I'm still on, we really did kind of a lousy job our last meeting, making the appointments. I volunteered myself, but I never heard confirmation if I was accepted, and I saw an email somewhere that said I was the Board of Selectmen member. So, I think that we ought to review our motion of who we're nominating to this committee. We can wait till next meeting. I don't have any problem with that. But you both put up Cody and I and not having this additional person, and now you're telling me you're allowing additional people. So, and you said other people have been contacted. So are you saying that the people we talked to, or we nominated last time, have been contacted? Is that what you're saying?
All I can say is that with respect to the member at large, there will evaluate. If you have a suggestion,
I shared my suggestion with you on email.
Yeah.
As I agreed to do at our last meeting.
Okay. I think we'd prefer to wait until our next meeting to do that. I don't think there's a sense of urgency to populate the committee. We have a basic group. I think we can get that meeting scheduled, and perhaps by the next meeting we have, we can solidify this member at large. I would say this is a secondary position to the people that we've identified, and so I don't think there's any particular rush. But
and I disagree with that. I think this person is very key to this committee. I think it puts somebody that comes in later as a part of the core committee as a disadvantage and catch up. I don't see if we're going to wait till next meeting. I don't see why we don't appoint everybody at the same time. I would like to know if I'm the board.
We've already appointed a number of people.
Have those people been contacted that they were appointed?
The what?
Have those people been contacted that they were appointed?
No, because we haven't scheduled a meeting yet. No.
Okay. I would really like to have this member at large appointed, because that was our agreement at our last meeting. And I think it makes sense that everybody starts the first meeting together. And I would like to know if I'm the Board of Selectmen representative, because that was very unclear at our last meeting to me.
We said you were.
Yeah.
We voted on it, remember?
Right.
You were the rep.
names were kind of thrown out, so we didn't then do a final list of who those people were. So it was very fuzzy. Very fuzzy. And then I asked.
Well, in the minutes we have.
Yeah, I know it's put in minutes.
So it's in the minutes.
Mm-hmm. I know that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know that I am the representative. Thank you. And this member at large is very important, I believe, to have on the committee from the start. I don't see any problems. We know the person I suggested. You agreed to let me contact that person. I did. I sent you the email. Why can't you appoint him and have the meeting include this person? I don't see the problem. I'm just going to make a motion then, since I'm not getting feedback, that we appoint a member at large, Mr. Richard Starr, who's agreed to join, if he's appointed to the American Recovery Committee.
What's your name?
Richard Starr. He's a businessman, he's a finance person.
How do you spell his last name?
STOUC.
Yeah, Rick Stout, he's in the investment
Oh, I know.
management
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
Lives in town.
I think he's also on the pension committee. You have any other names?
I don't. I don't have a problem with Richard Stout.
Yeah, I know him,
Oh.
and I think he's a fine individual as well. But I think beyond this, I think we need to, we don't want to keep adding people until we get some basic stuff going, and people could be added later, so. All right, did you second that?
I'll second that.
All right. Okay, we'll vote on it. All in favor of Rick Stout being a member at large, say aye.
Aye.
Good. Okay, turning to old business, the Soundview sidewalks.
Thank you. The Community Connectivity Grant Project, which is responsible for putting in new sidewalks in the Soundview Gateway, and is now pursuing a transit hub adjacent to this new sidewalks. The preliminary approval by the DOT for this additional work. Last met on Tuesday, the 31st, to review the transit hub costs primarily and approve invoices for the first Selectmen. As you know, the town approved $400,000 for the project, and that equaled the construction grant that the town was awarded. We received a check in 2020. There was no allowance that request was made and approved at town meeting for the budget for carrying any of the municipal costs and design costs which are not eligible under this grant, because the grant is a construction grant. For example, various attorney fees were not budgeted for under this appropriation. An example of how we used our attorneys on this project that I'm aware of is to review the agreements with the design engineer, the USC group, and to review the agreements with the contractor, Martin Materials. We also fought on the town's behalf the prevailing wage restrictions by the state. That definitely required our attorney's input. I felt that was more than a legitimate effort for our project and other projects. We did not prevail, but we fought a good fight on them. Design engineering fees, I mentioned, are not eligible. The engineer consultation during construction time is not eligible. In this case, for our project, our design engineer will, for example, review the invoices from the construction firm to make sure they're appropriate, complete. They provide an approval form on there that sends the form to Tim for signature. They also provide our eyes and ears on the construction. They interact with the contractor if there's any issues with the state. For example, the state wants the contractor to repair some of the ADA accessible ramps because they weren't as spec. That is something our design engineer does. It is not eligible for under this grant. They attend our committee meetings. They answer our questions. They keep the process moving. And again, they also provided a survey on 290 Shore Road, which is not eligible. That is the empty lot across from the Shoreline Community Church, across from the police department. And believe it or not, the town didn't have a survey of that property, so they performed that function for the town. And then they'll also help us when we go through the permitting process, such as what's required, what's underway, go to planning, to the zoning, and the tree commission. Currently, we determined that there is a buffer of about $28,740 available as a cushion left in the eligible amount of the grant. This is after the committee selected the requirements for the transit hub, which is essentially a bus stop in the part of the town lot across from the church, like I mentioned, where we really feel it's important to have buffer trees to the adjacent neighbors, that we have minimal landscaping to make it look attractive, but probably the most important part is that it really serves the function of a connectivity ramp, because it connects to the sidewalk, it brings people safely to the gateway, takes cars off the streets, which is important, brings pedestrians and cyclists to the area, placemaking, and it's a safe place for people to wait for the bus, to get off of the bus, or workers that work at the neighboring businesses to get in and out of Oban. The improvements under this project now allow pedestrians to walk on sidewalks from Mile Creek Road to local restaurants and the beach safely. 5-foot sidewalks per our planning guidelines, and there's crosswalks. And then finally, as I mentioned, a safe stop in the currently unimproved town lot. I again ask that this board selectmen approve an appropriation at town meeting for the additional costs we are, as a town, are responsible for. Approximately $40,000 is what's required in these costs. So at the end of the day, the town of Irvine will have approved an additional $80,000 and received $400,000 in improvements. Pretty good deal. And that is my summary. Oh, I actually have a copy. I don't know if you guys, I know you put some of the template. I don't know if Chris did it, but transfer that.
Okay. Good. Very good.
Can we address the appropriation, please?
As I've said before, the primary task was to install the sidewalks. Obviously, we knew that there was going to be money in excess of doing the sidewalks because the bid for the sidewalks was very competitive. The $400,000 in terms of the spending side is not limited to grant-funded expenses only. It's the money that's available for the project. To assume that these expenses would be absorbed in other town budgets is really not a proper way to go about it. And I don't think we know at this point all the amounts that will be required that will be non-eligible. You can say, well, it's not going to exceed $40,000 or $50,000, but it's as we add new things to it, there'll be more reimbursable amounts, there'll be more non-reimbursable amounts. So I think that the fact that originally the thing was set up with a $400,000 grant for the eligible expenses and $400,000 to spend on the project was a failure not to have an additional sum for non-eligible. I would imagine that the engineer and other knowledgeable people about the program would say, gee, there's going to be some non-eligible things. So as we continue to add things, I think, yeah, there would have to be an appropriation, but at this point we don't have the additional appropriation. And as you know, it will require town meeting approval. And so the fact that we're preparing to sign things, having the engineer proceed and contractors proceed, I think is putting the cart before the horse. We need a very concise amount for the non-eligible items, and that gets back to what's being added. We know that there's landscaping and a host of things. You know, the committee approved $40,000 for the transportation hub, but we know that the budget for that really, with all the extras, is probably over $100,000. So this is difficult to say, well, just make an appropriation, or that all these expenses should have been put in other budgets. So I think it's time to go to the Board of Finance to discuss this and say, all right, here's where we are. And yeah, if we spend the money and we are reimbursed, it's dollar for dollar on the reimbursement. So if you spend, say, $40,000 of town money to pay the non-reimbursables, and then we can pay for the reimbursables, but it still is going to require a process at a town meeting, and I don't know that the Board of Finance is up to speed on this as to what they need to do, and then the voters will ultimately decide. But I think we have to be careful not to tell contractors and so forth to do things that weren't part of the original project. Right now we know that we can pay for everything inside of that $400,000, but to the extent we use all the grant grant money income, then we're going to need the appropriation, and that's going to require a town meeting. So I think it's time to really get this laid out properly for the Board of Finance. So they're meeting in another couple of weeks. So I think that would be very wise to really detail what it is. And as I say, it's a moving target. And I know there was discussion about how many trees, are the cost of the trees too much? Are some of these amenities, are they really that necessary and so forth? And I don't know that we just want to spend the $400,000 on whatever is eligible, because after all, there are other costs associated with it. So with the basics, we did say the transportation center is a good thing to do, and I believe that. So I think we have to make a good presentation to the Board of Finance and say exactly how this is going to work.
I can't agree more. As you know, I've been asking for this for some time.
Well, you can't have been after it because we don't know the numbers. You can say you're after it, but unless you have black and white numbers and what's eligible, what's not eligible, we can't pick a number to say without...
We do know what's eligible and what isn't eligible. That is black and white. I agree with you there. And you sit on the committee as ex officio.
And I've been preaching all along, I've been cautioning since October about the fact that they're non-eligible, and it's just like, we'll go get an appropriation. That's not how it works. You've got to have the facts and figures and things the committee added just last week are talking about, well, we'll do this, that, and the other thing. That wasn't known 2 and 3 and 4 months ago. So I think that we've got to be very much...
I've asked on the record, and I've talked to you individually, I've asked that you allow our committee to come and speak to the project before the Board of Finance. That has not been, you've not allowed us to do that. You've spoken at the Board of Finance meeting, and then I have things in writing that said you're not in favor of an appropriation. So we have not been allowed to request an appropriation, but you have signed the amendments to our design engineers for the soft costs. The town is on the hook for those. These amendments to the contract have been signed by you. So we knew there were ineligible costs from the start. Right now, as you know, when you were at our meeting last week, we really feel pretty confident that of our remaining ineligible costs. You took some of those costs and they were written off in the Selectmen's budget
Which is not a good practice.
Appreciate that, but you picked and chose what was used. You didn't get the input from our committee, so myself was wondering why you wouldn't add some of these other points to that.
Well, is it common practice for these various projects just to build a selectman's office for legal and all that stuff?
Well, you probably would know better than I, since you're the first selectman. But it is common practice that committees are not given budgets for projects. We are carrying on the town's bidding for this project, and we are all outstanding citizens who have been working very hard on this. Nobody in this committee has tried to overbilk the taxpayer. Absolutely not. I quite honestly believe that the project for $400,000 in construction for improvements in Soundview was needed. We have representation on the committee. The Soundview representatives. Businesses benefit. It's making the area safer. It's bringing business and tourism to the area. I totally support the project. I totally believe that the taxpayer, when it's presented with this information, will see the value in spending $80,000 to get $400,000 in improvements. So I do believe that the costs are known. I believe you need to look at the budget that was presented and provided to you after our meeting. If you have any questions, myself and the engineer and the full committee can support answering those questions and have availed themselves.
I would say the committee
but
should.
I will not go through the permitting process through this town and waste this committee's time if I get the sense from you that you will not support the amenities that we've provided to make this project attractive and safe. The adjacent homeowners deserve to have some buffer trees. How many can be determined, can be helped by the tree commission, which we're set to go to this month. I look forward to their input on that. But we're certainly not going to add to the budgeted trees. We may subtract, but we won't add. So you can look at that as the worst case scenario. I don't know if planning will have any issues with this. I would be surprised since it's a town project on town land. And then zoning is our, the major concern to see if they accept the permit this month, and then there'll be a public hearing in October, hopefully. And if then we get approval, then we can contract with Martin Rivero to finish the work under our existing contract with them. The good thing about using Martin Rivero again for this project, we can use the grant. Without being able to use Martin Rivero, we cannot use the grant money. Also, all their warranties and agreements on their original contract hold, so the town is protected. It's unfortunate it will last till October, and the hope was obviously to get this done this summer, but that's where we're at, and I hope that, I hope this Board of Selectmen will support this project.
Well, I hope that the committee will put a concise statement together of what needs to be done here. I've done this myself, and I think as things have evolved, there's been more things added, and I think it needs to be clearly what is going to be grant eligible, what's not going to be grant eligible, and come up with the footings on both numbers.
Can we put them on the
budget? Don't you understand?
Can we put them on the selectmen for our next meeting?
Well, I think that just last week there was a discussion about adding this, that, and the other thing, and so when are the additional items going to be? This is it. This is all we're going to do.
That was the purpose of our last meeting.
And so that is the line in the sand. There's no more.
That's correct.
Okay, so let's develop what the committee is recommending. Then we go to the Board of Finance. The selectmen will look at it as well, and we will see where it goes, because ultimately it's got to go to a town meeting.
Understood.
But just last week we were working on new numbers, so how could we have presented something months ago without just picking an arbitrary number. You know, we've got to get the finances figured out here and then build consensus on it and so forth. So I'll be happy to participate, but I've been working on this since October, and it's just like, well, make an appropriation. I don't think we have that number. We're getting closer at this point, and I think we need to make sure that everyone agrees that whatever is being contemplated is a good idea, and then move it forward through the process. You know the process.
I do.
Okay.
That's why I've been asking.
No, you can't say in October you were asking for an appropriation when we didn't have the numbers.
I did know back in October that the VSC group design costs and consult during construction amendments would require an appropriation. I did know that,
And
I spoke to that
and
at the Board of Finance.
even those numbers are not fixed fees. You know, when we did our engineering for the first part of the project, it was a flat fee, $40,000.
That's true.
These are estimates which will be dependent upon hourly rates times the number of hours. And so whether I don't know that we can say that the two $15,000 fees are not going to be exceeded by more funds required. And so if you made an appropriation based on those, probably we'd have to look for some additional
Only
funding.
one of those fees is grant ineligible. The other 15,000 you're
That's right.
is fully eligible.
Correct. That's why I wanted to sit down with Kurt and really go through this stuff, because we've had amendments and to this and that and the other thing, and these are more dollars that have to be accounted for.
You signed all those amendments except the most recent one for an extension of $2,500. We have an amendment number 1, which you signed for $2,500.
But if we made it for the 15,000, we would not have included the 2,500. So my point is that as we move forward with new things, they have grant eligible, non-grant eligible expenses associated with them. So once we know we're at the end of the line, no more, and we have maybe the engineer say that he can do it for this kind of a number, then we have something to go with.
Well, if you were on that conference call last week, I mean...
Last week.
Our last meeting, and basically the last $2,500 request from our engineer, he believes that will be enough for him to basically hand off all the permitting to Martin Ferrio and say, go to work. So he believes that's the end of the extension. So
Okay, but if planning comes up with something or whatever else, who knows? I just, you know,
and I think,
there should be a contingency.
But we won't be in planning till this month, but we do have a buffer, as I indicated, of like 25,000. So, as you said in our meeting last week, make sure you have a buffer. Well, we do have a buffer.
the 11,000, yeah.
We have 11,000 and 1,000 and 1,700 are left over from, or 17,100. They're being incidental and contingency. So we have quite a nice buffer.
Yeah. Okay. Turning to Ferry Road, where we have signed a document with the state of Connecticut to that's the form that goes up there. So the engineer is looking to implement some of the preventive measures to protect the trees, the tree roots, and then the tree warden has in mind certain removals. If the sidewalk is on the north side of the street, we will have a public hearing, and then following that, we can make a recommendation. We heard from the engineer and the arborist that construction would likely be done similar to the way it was in Soundview. Probably put the project out for bid in the first quarter, and then into the first part of the second quarter, and then have the work begin when it's feasible to start work. So we're about to, ultimately, the tree warden would need to identify any trees that would be subject to removal. Were we to be on the north side, it would be, at this point, 4 trees that would be involved. So that's moving along. Soundview Sewers, I don't believe there's anything new to report there at this time. As I think we reported before, the project went out for bid. I think the bids are going to be offered shortly. I don't think they've been actually put out as yet, and so these are going to break the project down into smaller portions so that perhaps more contractors would bid on individual parts with ultimately a lower price. So the WPCA is moving forward with that. I believe the intermunicipal agreement with the City of New London is awaiting signatures from the New London officials. We did make a payment, a small payment to the City of New London, and then that will, the other payment will come when the actual system starts operating. And we need to confer with East Lyme and Waterford with respect to the use of the pipes and the pumping stations between East Lyme and the City of New London. Noyes Road, at the end of Noyes Road, the town attorney has sent a letter to the homeowner who has been placing a seat on the end of the town road, requesting that practice stops, and any cutting of grass in that area, which would be to the west of the road and to the west of the barricade. After talking with open space representatives, we think that the vegetation should be allowed to go back to the way it was in that area, and that the bench could be situated in front of the road or perhaps to the right of the road. Just keep a town bench there on a seasonal basis the way it was before. But we've sent a letter stating that we want the homeowner not to be mowing the grass or placing seating on the property. And last, we have the special town meeting coming up on the 13th, which will be to review the request for $42,000 for the police and ranger time, which was that call has been put in the paper, and so we'll be meeting next Monday on that here in this room at 7:30.
Tim, did you find out at our last meeting, I questioned whether this had to go back to the Board of Finance or...
It's what?
At our last meeting, I questioned whether this new request to hold a town meeting for the appropriation had to go back to the Board of Finance.
Yeah, they are actually meeting this week on that.
When is that?
Thursday, I believe. I think a meeting's been scheduled to be Thursday at 5:30. I don't know if it's been noticed as yet, but that's what I heard.
Okay, so it didn't have to go back, that's good.
Yeah.
And also I asked you if you had put together a memo that you shared with Chris and I describing the appropriation. And it wasn't dated or signed, but you got it that day on the last meeting, the 31st. And you had indicated you wanted to have the resident state trooper review it, and that hadn't happened. And I had asked you to confer with the finance department on these two. basically provide, the information that we didn't have the first time this went through, to understand the numbers, the math behind all this request.
Yeah.
And I'm asking if you have had those discussions with finance and the resident state troopers.
Yeah, we're going to have both the emergency management and state policemen cover this. I did work on a piece for them to review, and so we're going to talk about that this week. But I think I provided you both with a small write-up on it, yes?
Yes, you did at our last meeting.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been reviewed by finance, and I'm asking if that's happened.
Yeah, we'll share it with whomever wishes to see it, that's fine.
So the answer is no, we have not gotten this jump the math verified with the finance department. And you're shaking your head yes.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the reasons I voted no to move this to town meeting at our last meeting, because these numbers are not verified. There was no support at the first round of approving this earlier in August, and there is no verification of the math for this round.
It comes off the sheets, as I understand it, so.
That's why I voted no. Until it's verified, I don't know why we are putting the town through this.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment.
We are at new business.
What?
New business.
Well, I have none, so.
Okay, so you've got none on the agenda is for you.
What's that?
It says none on our agenda for new business.
Right.
Yeah, but I have some.
Okay.
Do you-
Or is that another business or new business? What?
This is-
that's a good question, let me just check. Yeah, under new business, some time ago, we had gotten some information about Kerma trying to have the town add a policy for a cyber policy to our insurance coverage, and given the concern over cyber crime, it seemed reasonable to me, but we didn't discuss that, to my knowledge, at the board of selectmen level. Can you let me know where we're at on that?
Yeah, we spoke with the Kerma representative, and Kerma no longer writes the policy, so we are actively looking to have a different firm cover us. So I think that with the protections that we have through Connecticut Computing, we have some good precautions that would give comfort to a carrier, so we're waiting to hear back.
The Sustainable Line Committee that I represent the Board of Selectmen on applied for silver status. The application went in the end of last month, and I just wanted the Board of Selectmen to know the committee worked extremely hard under the direction of Cheryl Collier, Charlotte Lyman, and Marie Crumbly to advance our efforts at the state level. If we get the silver award, it opens up more opportunities for grants for the town. Do you guys have any questions on that?
No.
Also, under new business, I wanted to make the Board of Selectmen aware that our emergency management director, Dave Roberge, had put together a grant application under the Home Senator's congressionally directed spending requests. And he had asked me to follow up on this, and I did, and it turns out that we are on the list. The town of Oline is on the list to fund a new emergency operations center in Oline. If we're awarded this for, I guess it's $945,000. And I don't know if you've seen that, so there's that.
I'll give you one of them. So this is just the list at this point, huh?
Right. Cross our fingers and toes for that. The other items I have, and mostly consists business we've undertaken before, so that would be under other business.
The what?
I guess the other issues I have to touch base with you all on are under items we've already discussed, so I'll leave the other business for those.
Okay. That's it for new business. We'll go to public comment. Anybody wish to make?
I'd like to make a public comment.
Yep.
If I stand over here or...
Yep.
I am Linda Acabellis, 57 Colt Lane, and I am here to express my deep concern about the Tantamaheg landing, the ownership of which has been understood to be by the town. However, new residents at 12 Tantamaheg have stated that they own the property, and they have since asked people to leave Tantamaheg Landing. And I am here to inquire where the town is with this process and being able to give reasonable assurance to the residents of Oline in writing, kept on log, but access to all residents as to that being ownership of the town. This issue has come up in the past, and I think it's unnecessary that it has come up again. And so off of that, I do have another question regarding if the town does have the assurance that that property is owned by the town, that is Tantamaheg Landing, to also as to when the town sign will be replaced that was taken down. So
I can respond that I know George Frampton did research, and he maintains that his position is the town doesn't own it, but that he would allow the public there. I provided his information to the town council to look at it, and so that's where it stands. We don't admit that it's his property. We still maintain it's town property. So to the extent that people are being told not to visit, right? Is that true? Mm-hmm. Whether you're on foot or in a vehicle, is that right? So
I was on foot, yes.
Yeah, regardless of the outcome, he said that he would not make the property, he would keep allowing people to come to the property, so that surprises me.
Well, and I guess my position on that is that I don't see where he has a position on that. If it is owned by the town, he should not have a say as to allowing or not allowing. So that's my big concern. And I guess I have a lot of questions to follow that, but I'm really interested in what the town is doing to give us that reasonable assurance.
It's in the hands of the attorneys to look through. He had a very voluminous report, and so I've asked town council to look at it and respond, because I think we don't agree that it's until our attorney says so, but I can't imagine after all this time that would be the case.
Has anybody in the residents at 12 Tantamaheg ever paid taxes on that property of Tantamaheg Landing?
Paid taxes on?
Tantamaheg Landing.
I don't believe so.
Okay, so that is something I think that should also be looked at when,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that to me says therefore ownership by the town.
Yeah, well, the prior owner, Diana Johnson, it was a town landing under her, you know, she tried to trade properties and so forth, but as it was a town landing, she didn't challenge that, to my knowledge.
Well, as far as we know, everything is, it's owned by the town.
The landing, yeah.
Yeah. And we were all in agreements of, putting up the signage and allowing the people to walk there or do whatever they had there. I mean, and now all of a sudden, I actually received a phone call about 10:04 right before I walked in here from another resident on Colt Lane, and I was gonna bring it up under old business, but it's just saying that this is continuing on with this gentleman that thinks it's his, and he's got a different attitude towards the people there than the couple times he's been here. So, it hasn't ended.
Yeah, because when we were dealing with the Harbor Management Commission and so forth, there was an agreement that there would be certain parking, there'd be certain hours of operation, etc., so that that he would be acting aggressively like that doesn't seem to be in keeping with that whole thing.
And
So,
I'm sorry.
I'll be happy to give him a call and ask him why it's been reported that he's been telling people to leave, right?
Yes. However, I also am wondering about why hasn't this town replaced a sign that it's Tanamahaig town property at the entrance of that area, because that was taken off, and I understand from minutes in July that that was going to happen, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, that needs to be done for sure. And now that the birds are starting to do their thing, it's even more important. So we discussed where they would be and basically what they were going to say. So then subsequent to all that, he did some of this title work personally, I think. I don't think he had an attorney doing it. And it's his opinion that the landing belongs to the property. What I guess number 12 is his. So, but I'll speak again to council and say this is getting to be an issue, a bigger issue.
Yeah, it is.
And so we need to get that on the front burner and get it figured out.
It does, and I really think something should be documented stating that, so we are not here again. It seems like this all about within the last 30 years it happened, and here we are again.
Yeah, that we thought that when he took over the property, it had been vacant for a couple of years, and then there was certain, the public was taking certain liberties, and so he was during the swallow migration, all that. So then it seemed like when we came to an agreement on signage and access and so forth, it would go better. And then he came up with the with this research, and so we need to get to the bottom of that. And if it takes some time and money to figure that out, we'll have to do it, because it's been a town landing since the 1700s.
Yeah, and so will it be posted, the next steps and the process for which this will happen, so the public has knowledge as to when we...
I'll give him a call to see if there's something that changed, because when I spoke to him before, he said, this is my research, have a look at it. And so, but he also said that public access would continue, that it wouldn't be thwarted.
I've heard something of that nature, but also, but not to driving, which people bring their kayaks, even up on Colt Lane, we have to drive them down. However, my bigger concern is I want some reasonable assurance that the town owns that property, so we're not here again. That's really, I think, what's at stake here.
Well, I'll give him a call, and we'll get to the bottom of the research project. Hopefully, it's a matter of black and white. Either the deeds say what they say or not. So, if there's interpretation, then you've got to figure it out. So we will accelerate that and see if we can get an answer.
And I respectfully ask if we can be kept aware of that, if this information is posted, so we know where things stand and we know when we can get involved, because there are many people that are upset about this.
Yeah.
So
I know.
you've probably been hearing phone calls and receiving emails and such.
It was very, it got very agitated a number of years ago when there was a potential land swap and that same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name's Sheila Ripple. I also reside at 57 Colt Lane. And I would just echo everything said by my wife Linda, as well as, I guess my question would be that if the owner of 12 Tamahay is saying that they would still allow people to access the water, and that seems to be a reasonable, at least temporary solution. I guess my concern is that is the permissiveness of that is sending the message that the town is unsure as to whether or not the town owns the property. And I think that as a homeowner in the near vicinity of of Tamahay Landing, who actually purchased partly because of the access being so close to the lot that we purchased, I would expect that the town would continue to behave as though the town owns it.
Yeah, I'm not saying.
Let me finish, please, sir. The information, when I was asked by a contractor doing work on their property, I'm sorry, I wasn't asked to leave. I was told that I would be permitted to access the water, but the owners had asked that person to not let people access the water. I respectfully responded that until the town provided me with documentation that I could not access that property and that it was actually private property, that respectfully I would continue to access it. So my greater concern right now that this seems to be, and you have a lot to deal with, I certainly understand that. And this may be small in your eyes, but this is bird season at this point. And I am concerned that conflict is going to ramp up. Apparently, one owner of the household has been respectful and saying, we will still allow you if you're on foot, whereas the other person is not quite so cordial. I've not experienced that, but with conversations amongst the immediate neighborhood and people who access that spot, I'm concerned that it's going to cause the town a bigger issue if something's not addressed.
Yeah.
In the minutes, as Linda mentioned, from July 20th, I believe, it was stated that you spoke to the gentleman, he said he was researching signs and he'd get them back up. That's a month and a half ago. So if it's taking town council a long time to go through those documents to be able to tell us whether or not it's black or white, that's one thing. But as of right now, the information that we have and that we're going by is that we have access to that property. I just don't want there to be a bigger issue that ensues. That sign was taken down a year ago now.
Yeah.
So this is...
Well, I would say that we have not agreed that it is not town property.
Yeah.
We maintain it's town property until it's till the research is finished. And he supplied a lot of information, which should be helpful to figure it out for a lawyer, title searcher. So.
Has the Board of Selectmen seen the paperwork that was presented?
No. I don't know that we've. It's a like a 30-page thing. So I looked at it and it's pretty complicated. So I think we'll just. I gave it to the town council, and so I'll give them a call, and maybe they need to get a little nudge.
So would an update be expected in maybe the minutes of this meeting, or would we be able to get an update at the next meeting? Where would we get an update?
I can say we'd like to find out where you are on this, and if there's some hang up, we can unclog it. And if I will call him, and if he says yes, I have been restricting people, then I'll say that's not what we agreed to. You gave us this document with your assertion, but we don't agree to it until it's corroborated by our side.
So if he admits that he's not letting people use it, then
No,
there
I-
might be an agreement.
No,
on the
I
town's
think he
own
said
property.
that regardless of the outcome, that he would consistently let people come to the site. He thinks that's a good thing. That's what he said.
Okay, so we can get an update at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just follow up? That doesn't make me feel any better. I just want to, it doesn't make me feel any better that he agrees to that if it were to be his and going down that whole road. What makes me feel comfortable?
No, I didn't. What I said is that were the outcome that he is right and the town is wrong, then he, notwithstanding that, would allow people to continue.
Well, I would sincerely hope, being that this property for since 1700s has been, stated as owned by the town, and it was an access way for the town to get, ice or whatever was happening, that there must be records somewhere proving that the town owns this property, and that's what would bring us source of
Well,
comfort.
that's what he poured through, I guess. I'm not entirely certain.
And I guess some of the questions to ask with your attorney would be those questions like, who's been paying taxes on this? And does, are there other clauses that can guarantee this to be owned by the town in some other way by just the nature of us having been, people in the neighborhood having been using this for so long now?
Yeah.
So
And there's even like a prescriptive, if it were to be, there could even be a prescriptive easement where the use of it by the town has been in effect for years and years and years, and it might.
The previous owner knew that she didn't own the property.
Right.
So, I mean,
So there must be some records somewhere stating that.
Gotta be
I just
something.
ask for the due diligence of the thoroughest can research be done. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure.
I just have a couple of comments just to clarify the Soundview sidewalk grant. I just want to reiterate that originally in the budget, we had expected to get $400,000 in grant expenses. And so we put $400,000 in the budget to spend. Back in October, the committee made us aware that there were some expenses associated with this project that were ineligible, that would be covered by that $400,000. So we've been talking for a long time of bringing to the Board of Selectmen request for additional appropriation to cover those expenses. And so we've been looking for this since October, but it hasn't been brought up as a vote or kind of as a discussion. So whether you wanted to do it then or you want to do it at the end of the project, there's still going to be an additional appropriation that has to go to town meeting.
We know that, yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Now tell me.
I didn't understand from your conversation what you said that that's really where we're at, and that's about.
So the town received a check from the state of Connecticut, right? And that was deposited in the town's account, or what? Yeah.
They put it in there directly. Yes, it was a direct deposit by them in the bank account of the town.
Okay, so where does it reside now?
It's in the bank. I mean, it's not like it's.
Is it part of the surplus then?
That's kind of an odd question because it went into our bank account, and the revenue is accounted there. The expense is accounted for totally completely separate from that. So when you say surplus, I can't really answer that because that doesn't give a true picture of where the funds are. If we don't spend $400,000 on eligible expenses, then we got to give whatever the difference is, we got to give it back.
Right, but if the $400,000 from the state is sort of separate from surplus and town money, and it's not considered.
It's in deferred revenue. What we don't spend is in deferred revenue.
Deferred revenue?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we get to the end of the line and we had $10,000 left, we'd have to return that to the state, we just take it out of this deferred revenue line.
Mhm.
So it's not gonna change the town surplus balance or anything like that. It's a separate
Right, but
line.
the ineligible expenses will have to come out of surplus through an additional appropriation.
Right, but the 400,000 on the spending side is not exclusively for eligible expenses, right?
Well, it's depending on your assumption. I mean, I assume that if we're getting 400,000 in a grant, that 400 grand.
Right,
would
but
be
if we were to spend,
construction eligible expenses, so that's how much I would assume the committee assumes that they have to spend on this project, aside from ineligible expenses.
but if we have 400,000, let's say we spent, including 30,000 of ineligible, we'd spend 400,000. We can only take out of that deferred revenue 370,000, right?
I
Because
understand the question.
we have 400,000 as a line item to spend money.
Mhm.
So if we spent 370 on grant eligible and 30 on non-grant, that's 400,000. That would fit under that carryover amount, right?
Right, but I just think it's short-sighted to assume that the committee
No, we
has
just-
has to absorb non-eligible expenses when the 400 is really for the total of the grant, not for these other things.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's how we budget other projects. If we're gonna spend 100 grand on Ferry Road sidewalk construction, we budget 100 grand and then an additional 30 to cover engineering and advertising and legal and all
Yeah,
that.
but-
We didn't in this case, and that's on us and the prior administration and my office as well, because we didn't think of that.
But
So,
not providing for the non-eligible, you're gonna have to get an appropriation to fund it.
right, but I'm saying that's not the committee's fault, that's the budgeting, that's how we didn't budget
Well-
correctly.
So why didn't the town set up 400 income expense and then say, well, there's gonna be some non-eligible expenses? Shouldn't there have been a sum for that?
Because we didn't think of that when we found out about the grant, it was right at the end of the budget season, and we put in the revenue and put in the expense, and we didn't think of that at the time,
Okay,
so.
thank you.
The other thing I just want to question on is the salary study that you had discussed first on your agenda. Just in the prior salary study and wage update, it was the first selectman and the finance director that headed that project. Because there's a lot of confidentiality in it, there's a lot of management decisions that go on during that process. And from that original study by Randy Frank back in 2009, 2010, there's been a lot of changes to job descriptions, there's been updates, there's been additions. And I'm not sure how you could bring this to a vote today, because my finance office has not been consulted at all of what the budget is, where we are in the status of how many jobs we have, what other additional ones do we want to add on the next phase of this thing. So, there's a different number of job descriptions, and if you selected the vendor that is on a per job fee basis, you don't even have the correct number, because the number I calculated is not what you have. So I really would recommend either a committee or a department head being involved in this, and not your administrative assistant, because there's a lot of HR issues that I think are well above that position. So.
Well, I think that we're getting the firm. I don't think that the fee is an absolute. It's not like we're focusing on that as the only number.
But you selected a firm based on no input from the finance office, who's really been handling the HR function. And we never said we didn't want to be involved in this study. I think it's almost important for us to be involved in the study. We did the last one.
Well, I think if we get the firm in here, they will obviously look at what we have. We've only been talking on the telephone, so they are very capable of doing a lot of things, and they would look at what we have and what we want. All that work would be after the selection, so I don't think...
Well, you selected a firm and there's not even really an RFP.
Well, that would be true of any firm.
You've got two different firms bidding on two different ways, giving you fees and estimates on two different ways, that you've, two different people interviewing two different firms. I don't understand how that's even a proper process. So,
Good afternoon, Paul Reed, 9 Cold Lane. Just have a couple of follow-up things on Untitled Chapter. So, I don't know if you remember speaking with me back near the end of July. We talked about the status down there. And I do remember it was like February or March where the Board of Selectmen meeting, you guys approved the Harbor Management Commission recommendations for the signs. And our expectation at that point was that the signs were going to be up at the beginning of the summer. When we spoke near the end of July, you told me, yes, the signs have been delayed, but we'll have them up in the next couple of weeks. That was about 5 weeks ago. Was there a problem with the signs? I'm not sure I understand why the signs aren't up yet.
They're coming. This is public comments, not Q&A.
Okay, well, that's our concern. Is it seems like, you know, there's been a number of steps along the way. The signs will be up, 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 but they're still not up. Another follow-on to that is you said you're going to call Mr. Frampton about him restricting access to the property. And based on all the interactions that we have all had with him along the way here, do you really think he's going to admit that he's been restricting access to the property? I can't imagine he would. But he has. We have a number of residents on the street who have been told by him, this is private property, you have to leave. It is town property. I think the town should act like it's town property and put the signs on. Additionally, can we get a cease and desist order for him to stop telling people it's private property? I mean, it's just another aggressive tactic on his part to try to claim that property for his own. I think the town needs to start acting a little bit more aggressive. Okay, this has been going on too long with him, and my comment is the town needs to take control of this, get it back under control, put the signs up, state the claim that it's town property, let him do what he's going to do with his research, and let's go from there. Okay?
Very good. Okay, any other public comment? If not,
I got a comment over
here. I planned on being online, right, on the phone. My name is Warren Soswicki. I'm at 2 Columbus Avenue, right? And I went on the line, called up the number. Says I'm busy, right? Stand by, stand by, stand by. An hour later, I'm here now. Still saying stand by. Is this thing on or is it off? Because I have a friend of mine that wanted to come to this, but she can't because of COVID. She's very susceptible to it. She wants to hear it. She's shut down because you guys went to an executive session.
All right.
And she's been checking every 10 minutes. Now I just put mine on and let it run and run and run. And I said, I gotta go feed the dog. And you guys are here. Is it working or not? Because the same thing happened when I went on the WPCA meeting.
Yeah, this has been a pain, I will say that.
Okay. Then why don't we turn around and either do it, right, the way it should be done, where executive board sessions go to the end of the meeting so the public can be here, listen to everything that's said. And then you guys can go in the back room and discuss whatever you need to discuss.
Well, when we dialed it up after that, and it seemed to be working, and it drops out for some reason, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't do me any good because I wanted to hear what was going on, and I come in for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And she's been waiting for over an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
right? And she had comments that she wanted to say, you know.
Right. I would apologize. I don't know. This system has been.
Okay, so we got that out of the way. Thinking about another comment, let's go with the swim lines. Has that been resolved on the swim lines over at Soundview and Miami Beach area? Because
well, it's a public comment.
They brought it in about 40, 50 feet more than they usually do. And now, not only are the boats parking closer, but the jet skis were coming up closer. Right? They've been picking up people that are getting off the beach. You go on. They were zipping along 5, 6 feet away from the lines because they're outside the lines. Of course, the waves comes in, which is nice for the kids, not nice for the adults who have to worry about the kids. And I don't want my grandchildren getting hurt out there by some kid riding around and loses control and the jet ski goes over the line. You know, so that's got to go back out farther, right? And I don't know why it was straightened out twice, and each time they went back to the same spot. They never brought it out where it was. Number 3, there was something there about a pier going up. Is that a legitimate thing, or is that somebody just talking and throwing things up against the wall to see what sticks?
I've heard nothing about a pier.
Oh, pier, good. That's all I wanted to know. Because I heard that somebody was talking about having a pier built off the Soundview in the Soundview area, right? So that the boaters can come. I'm going. That doesn't sound right. But I just wanted to get from the person.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no committee going on.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. We'll turn to other business then.
We took care of my Town of Hague thing, so it's all you, Mary Jo.
Thank you. Where are we in hiring another part-time policeman?
The what?
Part-time policeman?
If you push that the other side, otherwise I don't know what to do.
Where are we in hiring the part-time policeman?
We're not hiring another part-time policeman at this time that I'm aware of.
Okay, because I know we put out an ad for one, and I brought this up periodically, and you indicated we were in the process of hiring a part-time policeman. So now we're not?
I don't believe there's been one hired. I haven't heard an update on since the ad's been run, whether it had any candidates or not.
Could we find out if we have anybody?
Sure.
Candidates, that'd be great. Thank you. Second of all, I wanted to bring up the Tantamahake landing. I received another email from another resident. She indicated that she'd like to know what's happening on Tantamahake Landing. It's been a while since the Harbor Commission made their recommendations. I live on Pole Lane and know that no signs indicating public access have been put up. One of my neighbors brought his kayak down to the launch with his car this past week. The homeowner told him it's private property. I'm very concerned that the new homeowner is trying to take away public access. What is the official stance the town is taking? Why is this new petition gaining traction when the previous owner's claim was denied? Any information you can provide would be greatly appreciated. We in Pole Lane do not want to let this slide and are very willing to attend meetings to speak on this matter, obviously. So, we at this board have been talking about this landing for about 9 months now. It's really fascinating to me that we took care of the issue at Devitt Road in Catherine. The attorney wrote a citizen's assist, done. Solution. Why can't we do that with this? What is the difference? It's pretty much very similar. We have two people that think they have private ownership. The town feels otherwise. In one case, the lawyer writes a letter of cease and desist, taken care of. In this case, we are dragging this out, that empowers this person to do more research. It disadvantages the town, it disadvantages the homeowners why can't we get this
Well,
done?
in the first case, we have a letter from the attorney that, after he looked into it and found the claim of the person was erroneous. In this one, we have to get the resolution from the attorney, what they say. I think, as we said earlier, we still maintain it's the town's property, and we will endeavor to get this legal review concluded. It's taken too long.
So when a legal review does get approved, we can do what we did down on Noyes Road, send them a cease
Yeah,
and desist.
yeah, right
Okay.
now, we're just saying we own it.
Yeah,
But,
well, we do.
you know, there's a challenge, and until that challenge is yes or no, I think we maintain we still own it.
Right.
Can we not have a cease and desist letter written in the meantime? Like until,
I guess, I would say that until it's proven that we don't own it, we maintain that we do own it, and we say that we understand that the owners have been aggressive to people coming onto the town landing, and we say, please cease that practice. And if he says, well, I own it, he says, well, it hasn't been determined to our satisfaction.
But can we still, go on the thought that we still own it and send them a cease and desist?
I think we could
probably have him draft up the same letter he did down for the Noyes Road one.
Yeah, well,
Change the
without
name,
the
change
same
and whatever.
Yeah.
And send him one until
I'm
he
sure
proves otherwise.
I'm sure they can figure it out.
Yeah.
They can phrase it in a way that doesn't say we've reviewed it and this is our opinion.
Yeah. So
that would really be a good
let's
thing.
get a letter.
Yeah.
And to this gentleman's point, I too have heard that the Economic Development Commission, there is a member who is interested in potentially developing a pier off of Frank Morata's area. And so I don't think that that's false information you heard. It's been discussed at a public meeting with the town commission.
I haven't heard it.
This is the first I heard of it.
Well,
So where would this pier be?
if it happens, or if, I don't even know, it sounds very fantastical to me, but it is proposed to be near Frank Morata's place.
And
Part of the
how
commission.
big would it be?
I don't have any details, but I wanted to reinforce that he did hear that it is true, it's in their minutes, and it is.
And whose minutes was this?
Economic development.
Oh.
So it is something that if you guys want to look it up, there is
So
someone who has interest in it.
Who presented it to economic development?
One of their members, I forget.
The citizen or
One of their
Marauder?
members on the commission.
Hmm?
A member on the commission. So yes.
As a point of information or?
No, as a point of interest, a possible economic development interest.
Interesting.
Well, we can ask the chairman of that.
That'd be great. Grassy Hill Road, Culver. I'm very confused on this, so I hope you can help me. This Board of Selectmen approved moving forward with the Grassy Hill Bridge renovations twice. Made a motion and approved it. However, when you would present it at the Board of Finance, it ultimately, they didn't put it in our budget for this year, so we don't have what we kind of thought would be about $200,000 additional into the budget. So for whatever reason, it wasn't budgeted. The town meeting, the budget passes, and all of a sudden, there's a lot of interest in getting Grassy Hill Bridge done. I don't understand what changed in your mind between then and now, so maybe you can explain that. Even if you can't, it's a point of interest. With Storm Ida, we had a ton of water that came over that culvert. The culvert is too small. At least last weekend, there was a huge tree stuck in it. So is that bridge currently safe? And if so, what have we done to make sure that's the case? If there been some situation?
Well, the Board of Finance is, they didn't fund it, as you point out, and the engineer is still working on finishing up the engineering. There's been a proposal based on a PowerPoint with the DOT and I think Corps of Engineer that the Corps of Engineer would like to see, instead of a twin box culvert, it would be one span bigger than the other span, and there's a request for engineering to accommodate that request. So we will discuss this at the next Board of Finance meeting, because we still are operating with the DOT assurance verbally from our representative that the project is will be funded at the 50% level at a higher amount and with a longer time frame. So the Corps of Engineer permit, as we've heard, is going to take longer, meaning it's a year, and we probably would therefore, under the normal circumstances, be looking at construction in the summer of 2023. So I think that the Board of Finance hasn't said they definitely back the project and will be recommending funding a portion of it, but I think that will have to happen during the next budget season, because we don't want to wait till the very end and have to have a come up with the town share of it. We got to work on the numbers to make sure that all works. So I think they haven't said we're against it. They haven't said we're definitely moving forward with it. I think they need to make a decision on whether they are going to recommend funding it in the next budget season.
Okay. Just for the record, this board selected by 2-1 approved it, so going forward, and it didn't get funded, and still a question in my mind why. I think you all got a message. I guess this would be considered other business. We knew that the requirement for body cams was a requirement under the state, but our question had been who's going to fund and save the data. And Tim, you have gotten an email late last month indicating that the state has agreed to maintain the tapes, correct?
Correct.
So when will the cameras be on?
I think the requirement's next July. Whether it moves sooner than that, I think depending on what the trooper does and what's available for us, but I think the requirement is next July.
Okay, so he would be the one to ask where we're getting it up and running. We have the cameras, right?
Yeah, I think we funded the purchase of them, and I think it's in the budget this year, and there was some grant money and so forth and so on. So I think that should be all squared away. It's a question, and now with the state willing to go for 2 years, I'm hoping that might be a precursor to the state taking it over entirely and, charging the towns a fair rate, but doing it, rather than have everybody trying to figure out their own storage.
This is kind of a general sound view issue. It sort of addresses this gentleman's question also. We have a person that cleans our beaches and is responsible for putting out the lines, and we've talked at this board about the lines. You were going to look into, I think you were going to talk with Frank Campolano if the lines need to be adjusted. Has that conversation happened? And do you have any update on that?
About the beach cleaning?
I think
No,
the
lines.
lines and the buoys were not in the proper spot.
I've talked to the contractor, and he says they're in the right place. I asked Frank Papalardo to check it out to see, you know, probably somebody has to measure it. You know, there are specifications in the permit where the buoys go. Now, I've heard discussion that the sand migrated in and therefore it's shallower and it's in the right place, but it seems shallow and all that. I don't know if anybody's physically measured it. So we've asked on occasions to say, are these things in the right place? They should be.
Okay, so we still don't have, the town does not know for sure if they're in the right place.
I have not been told yes or no. I've been told by the contractor they are in the right place, but I suppose if somebody wants to measure the distance between the shore and the lines, then that would confirm yes or no.
I mean, we've had now 2 public comment where people have said they're not in the right place, so.
I'm just telling you what I know.
I guess my question.
And pretty soon they're going to be pulled anyway, so.
Yeah, but in the meantime, you could have someone get hurt. You have people that said they couldn't swim.
I know,
because
but
diesel.
I've given you my answer. I've been told by the contractor they're in the right spot, but that's all I can say.
This contractor also has a debt to the town. Historically, when he cleans the beaches, he brings stuff to the transfer station and hasn't paid his debt. Been building up, and there were emails floating about this, and I know I mentioned here with his wife, why are we paying this guy if he hasn't paid us? So, you know, I also understand he has a new contract with the town. We didn't see the contract. And so despite these performance issues we have with the contractor, sounds like we gave him a new contract. So I'm curious to know why that happened. And second of all, has he paid his debt?
Which contract are you speaking of?
The beach cleaning.
Beach cleaning. He's been doing the beach cleaning. I haven't heard to the contrary.
Yeah, I think he has been doing it, but we've had some obviously issues with his performance. Some questions on movies, questions on wine, and then his debt when he brings his stuff to the transfer station. He's been piling up debt, not paying his bills.
I've been specifically told that the beach cleaning's been done badly.
Who says he hasn't paid his debt?
And it's getting a little late. I think we're going to get to the end of the agenda. It's 2.5 hours, so.
Are you going to tell the selectmen to stop?
Well, these meetings become.
Yeah, because we don't get things resolved. So this is the only opportunity I have to bring up these issues, Tim. This is a management concern. We have a guy who is working for the town that you provided a new contract for. There's performance issues. The Board of Selectmen hasn't seen the contract. He's apparently got debt to the town. I think we need to discuss this, and I think we need to resolve this.
All right, send me a memo and I'll look into it.
If he's got a debt to the town, he shouldn't be getting paid.
That's right. I totally agree. And I have brought that up before. Also, parking tickets at Soundview. You know, historically, we had at least one hearing during the summer, someone that objects to getting a parking ticket. For 2 years now, we haven't had a hearing. I know last year was COVID, but how many parking tickets have we received? And have you had no one that appealed the parking tickets at all?
I've received a folder with just a few days ago with some appeals, so I'm going to sit down with the ranger and review them. This is the first batch of appeals that I've seen, so we'll go through that and then make decisions and then take it from there.
If there's anything I can delay. I guess I'll just ask for your reminder, you sent an email out August 19th to the Selectmen. We've received a check from Connecticut Water for a $100,000 payment to perform roadway restoration on Center Beach Avenue. Can you remind me how we came up with that $100,000?
Connecticut Water installed a new main in Center Beach Avenue, and so they tore up the street to do that, and so they said the town can probably repave it at a more favorable price than we can, so we'll offer you $75,000. Talked with a public works director, and he said that that was too low, and so we countered with the $100,000, and the company agreed. So they sent us the check, and it's now in a road improvement fund. So when that road is done, it's basically for half the street because the pipe went down one side of the street, so it's not the full value of repaving the whole street. But he said we would not want to just simply repave half the street because that would leave a seam and it would deteriorate. So, and the other side of it's not that great a shape either. So he figures he will get a price to do the whole road and use those funds to offset a majority of the costs.
Thank you. I couldn't remember this. And lastly, I want to bring up the resolution declaring racism on public health practice again. Again, requesting board of selectmen to address issues of racism and public health practice with a commitment to move forward by signing the resolution. Most of our neighboring towns do. The resolution is a valid statement to support equitable government policy. If, as you have said, there is no racism concerns, then we are doing something awfully wonderful in Oldham, and we should feel proud to share that. It's been 13 months since I've been bringing this up to the Board of Selectmen. Please sign the resolution. Allow for a meaningful discussion at least. That's all I have.
Make a motion to adjourn.
What?
Second?
6:34. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I think we got to go to Zoom. May have him shut this off. Do your magic on this.
Oh. Well, sewers we had no update with.
Okay.
All right, we're just waiting for the quote. Oops, hold on.